What's going on, folks? As you can see, this bottom shelf of my plant rack is getting out of control. So we need to do some work on these plants and kind of get them down below the lights. I'll bring you in for a closer look here. You can see they're growing up into the lights, and it's too hard to get in there and try and water and check them for pests and see how they're developing. So I definitely need to get some work done down here and see if we can get this into a more manageable situation. So I've got some patchouli cuttings here. You can see they went to flower and they're pretty much spent now. But these Bougainvillea are what we're going to be looking at today. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a fifth one back here. But yeah, we're going to try and get these Bougainvillea into shape. So let's take a closer look at the plants growing up into the rack. So if we check it out here, let's get this jade out of here. We'll pull this jade down. You can see there's Bougainvillea growing up. That's from all the way in the back. Let's bring it in for a little bit of a closer look here. So you can see that everything down there is pretty much growing up through the bottom of the rack, even these underneath these cactuses. Yeah. So let's get these guys on the table and check them out. So in addition to those Bougainvillea and gardenia, I got a bunch of cuttings in here as well. Wow, these are really growing like crazy back here. These were all really small cuttings when I put them in here. But now you can see these actually are looking a little dry, so they need some water. But yeah, I've got a bunch of gardenia here, a bunch of Bougainvillea, Bougainvillea and gardenia, some rosemary, and a croton back in there. But yeah, so I've got all these cuttings ready to go too, so I might be able to fill in a forest with these or start them as a new bonsai, so we'll see. All right, folks, so this is the tree that we're going to be looking at out of all the Bougainvilleas that you saw down there. So we're just going to take a look at one of them to keep it simple. I'll show you the progress, or I'll show you how each of one of them ended up at the end of the video. I did decide to plant these out a little differently. We'll check that out at the end of the video, so stay tuned. All right, so this is the one we're gonna take a look at here. Let's see if we can get in a little closer. So it's not much to work with really, but most of them aren't. So we're gonna try and make the best out of it. Actually, the first bonsai that I did make was out of one of these Bougainvillea cuttings, and I'll show you a picture of that here. I think it turned out okay. We actually gave that away to a good friend. I'm not sure if it's still alive or not. So, but with that said, we're gonna try and get some more going. We're going to get this thing pruned up, get a shape, maybe get a little bit of wire on it, and then get it repotted into a smaller pot. Now, one of the reasons another reason I wanted to get these into smaller pots is we got a big move coming up next summer. I'd like to get these into a smaller footprint and also lower. So if they're, with the bonsai pot is like a third of the height of this pot, so it's going to be easier to transport. It's going to be lighter. It's going to take up less space. It's not going to be as tall. So another advantage of these not being as tall right now is they'll fit on this bottom shelf down here a lot better. So that's definitely going to be another advantage here. So let's jump in and take a look. I'll bring you in for a closer look before we start to prune it up. So here we go. You can kind of see what we got going on down here a little bit. Most of this on top is gonna go. So let's put this leaf off of here. So it's in a pretty good bonsai soil. I did add a top dressing of compost over the top of that, a sandy compost mix, just to help it hold a little bit more moisture during the summer. So now that isn't the first time I've worked on these recently. I did do some work on these this summer, so let's check a video of that out as well. So you can see during the summer I let them get really long, and I had to cut them back pretty heavily before bringing them in the fall. I think this was about October, so I had to chop them back really heavily. I let them grow kind of wild all summer long, as you can see in the footage here. So but now they've kind of grown out a little bit again, and we're going to try and get them back into shape and get them into nicer development. So let's check this out. So I'm gonna start by just chopping this back and trying to see what I have left to work with here. So I'm just gonna take off some of the longer branches. Okay, so let's switch over. Okay, so this is approximately the front I think I want to go with. Now this branch starts down here, so let's take a look. Now there is a smaller branch underneath there. They all go in directly toward the middle though. I don't know if I can salvage that. There's a nice little branch that comes out down here. I could just cut it up here and see what happens. So I'm just going to take this branch off all the way here. There's a couple little nubs I'm going to clean up. And this. No, you know, I think this has to come off. This has to come off. there's a couple of buds right here, so you know what? I'm just gonna take this back. Let's see what happens there. I'm just gonna take this all the way down here. Alright folks, so there we go. That is what we ended up with. We're gonna let this guy go and see kind of what happens. It's off to a good start though, so let's move on to the next one. Okay folks, here it is a few weeks later, and you can see that everything is fitting a lot more compactly here on this shelf. I've got this hibiscus back here. I repotted that earlier this fall. I didn't do a video on that, but here are those other cuttings that I took from this summer. I fit those down here. The gardenias that I did in my last video, here they are, looking great. And then here are the Bougainvillea from this video, and you can see that they're looking pretty well. This cascading style one looks a little rough. It's in a larger particle bonsai soil, and we actually had to leave for just under a week, so it got kind of dry. Hopefully that bounces back, but you can see all the cuttings are looking really good and everything's fitting really nicely down here. So click subscribe if you'd like to see updates on these plants or any of my other plants. And while we're down here, let's check out the bonsai that are overwintering outside. So you can see barely what I've got going on here. It's super cold out there today. I'm hoping that they're looking okay. It's about 3 degrees this morning, so I'm hoping the azalea turns out okay. I got the Fuji cherry in there as well. The temperatures right now here in zone 5A are definitely pushing the limits of what they can take for cold. So we'll see how it goes this spring. Stay tuned. Click subscribe if you'd like to see the update videos on those, and we'll see you later.